Guys, I've been back in the lab, and I got something special for you. Alright, so today I'm bringing you a little bit of a theory craft on how to deal with recombinators. So, recombinators are a very exciting new tool that have been added to the game, but there's been one major problem that I've found when trying to craft new items: getting bases. Sourcing bases has been incredibly difficult. I find that every person I whisper for a 5C base or a 10C base with spell suppression and life on it, and I'm trying to merge that into something else, they just don't respond. So I find myself sending message after message after message trying to get these bases, and it's incredibly frustrating. So I decided I'm going to source them myself. Today I'm going to show you how to do that. Before we go any further, if you like this content, please go down and give me a like. It only takes a second. And if you like to see this type of content, give me a sub. Thank you so much. So this essentially has two parts. First, we're going to be sourcing a massive amount of corrupted bases with really good modifiers on them. Then we're going to be sourcing less good bases with a couple of good modifiers on them, but are not corrupted. Eventually, we're going to be merging those together. Let me take you on a little tour. So what I've been doing is collecting bases. Bases that I probably could sell for 5, 10, 20, maybe even 30C, and putting them into tabs, the mush tabs. All right, first let's talk about corrupted items. So when you corrupt an item, there are 4 possible outcomes. You can have no effect, you can change one or more of the sockets to white sockets, you can re-roll the item into a rare that is now corrupted with random sockets, links, and 6 affixes. Or it can add a val implicit. The one that we're concerned with in this strategy is the third one, where it re-rolls an item into random sockets, links, and affixes. There's a lot of value to be had in the Sextant Uniques drop corrupted items if you have a lot of Beyond on the map, because you're going to be spawning a lot of Beyond monsters, which ultimately will spawn unique bosses. The more Beyond you have, the more pack size, the more monsters that you put into the map, the more Beyonds will spawn, and therefore the more unique monsters will spawn. When you put unique monsters drop corrupted items on there, you have a high chance of getting a lot of 6 links to drop. And that's usually how people make a lot of money with this method. I've made many exalts farming unique monsters on Crimson Temple this league. Oh, son of a... There is a side effect to this method that I think works really well with recombinators. So the third option that randomizes the sockets, links, and affixes will always give 6 affixes. This is going to give you a really high chance of getting some good mods. Now, thousands of items are getting dropped corrupted, and that means you're going to see a ton of 6 affix items, and most of them are probably going to be garbage. Luckily, thanks to NeverSync, our filters will automatically tell you when you have an item with a bunch of high-level mods on it. Unfortunately, that probably includes things like tier 1 rarity, but usually it won't show you something unless it has some good mods on it. So let's look at this helmet, for example, just a random one that I'm looking at in my tab here. It's got tier 1 life, tier 1 rarity, tier 2 armor and evasion, tier 1 cold res, tier 1 fire, and tier 6 accuracy. Now, you don't care about the rarity, you don't care about the armor and evasion really, because this is not a base that's getting a ton of armor and evasion for you, and the accuracy is not a very good roll. However, tier 1 life, tier 1 cold, and tier 1 fire is really nice. Now, if you could get those 3 mods onto another base, say a high evasion base with spell suppression and some good prefix, now you have an incredibly good item. This item probably isn't going to sell corrupted as is, but if I can merge this with an uncorrupted item that has 1 or 2 good mods on it, we'll be in pretty good shape. So just quickly to give you an idea of how good the items that you can get from corrupted items are, we'll just look at a few random ones. So here we go. This is a shield that has tier 2 life, tier 2 hybrid life, tier 1 strength, tier 1 cold, and tier 2 chaos. This just dropped like this, showed up on my loot filter, and this is pretty nuts. You combine this with maybe avoid ailments or spell suppression or get it on a better base, and you're gonna be in pretty good shape. A lot of things like this drop, where it's just +1 all spell skill gems on a wand or a dagger or a scepter, and even though it's magic, the filter still shows it. I run uber strict, and it still shows items like this. Here's a pair of gloves that have a bunch of extra armor and evasion, so not great there, but tier 1 life, tier 2 spell suppress, and a decent res. Very nice. Let's just hop over to these boots. Tier 2 move speed. These are a pair of boots that would love some life. If you could merge this with, like, say a T1 res or a T1 attribute and some life on an uncorrupted base, you could end up with an insane pair of boots. Now, these boots are not going to sell as is, unless it's to somebody who wants to recombine them. However, you get so many bases like this. Just spell suppression everywhere, move speed, life everywhere, and you can take that and turn that into a really good item. Now, unfortunately, I've spent most of my ROG currency and I haven't farmed much more yet, which I plan on doing with logbooks. So I can't do a lot of crafting right now to show you how to get good uncorrupted bases, but we're gonna make an attempt here. So the idea behind this part of the method is not necessarily to craft elite items, but it's rather to craft items that have good bases for recombinating. So if you want to get tier 1 life onto another item, the best way to do it is to have tier 1 life and 3 suffixes. It's going to give you the most amount of rare mods, so you're going to have the highest pool, the biggest pool to select from, but it's only going to give you 1 prefix to choose from. It is my understanding that that's the best way to do it. Now, I could be wrong. This entire process is still a little bit muddy to us, but I believe that's the way it works. But you don't even really have to narrow things down to just 1 prefix or 1 suffix. Just getting a couple of really good mods and then finding a corrupted base that you have that matches up well with it is going to do just fine. So let's just try to make some halfway decent gloves here. We don't want to remove all of our suffixes because we already have tier 1 cold. So let's skip that. And I'm already out of currency, so I have to take this item. Okay, that didn't work out. Let's see if there's anything else that isn't going to cost me any exceptional artifacts. When you're looking at items in here, you don't just have to look to make halfway decent bases. You can look to craft really good items, but when you realize that your ability to craft an item is not going to go the way you wanted it to, you can just try to salvage it to make it a good recombinator base. So here's a belt with tier 1 strength, tier 2 cold, and tier 2 chaos. These are pretty nice suffixes. Okay, so we're going to upgrade tiers. We love that. Add a prefix, we'll do that. Add a prefix, we'll do that, I guess. Okay, here we go. Upgrade the tier 3 modifiers. So now we have tier 1 strength, tier 1 cold, and tier 2 chaos. Yeah, sure, we'll re-roll the prefixes. We'd really like to get life on here, but... Oh, I wish I had the money for this. See, this is why you don't do this when you don't have any currency. If I had this, I would be able to get tier 1 flask life recovery rate, which is whatever, tier 3 life, tier 1 chaos. But anyway, as is, let's see if it gives us, no, we'll just take it. As is, this is a very good base for recombinating. So if you have a belt, which I may, we can go take a look. I don't know that I do, but okay. So what I did is I went and grabbed a Stygian Vice that I had that has tier 2 life on it. Now this is not a corrupted base, so it doesn't really work with our strategy, but as far as getting a ROG item and then merging it, for a belt you really would like a Stygian. So a Stygian with high life combined with some of these suffixes would be really, really nice. So let's get a Jewelry Recombinator. And let's just test it live, see how it goes. Okay, so we didn't get the Stygian base, that's unfortunate. And we didn't get the life. And we lost most of our good mods. So that's not a great example. However, the idea behind this is volume. You're not going to hit good recombinations every time you do it. That's the whole point of the system. If this was more deterministic, it would be entirely broken. Now, I still think it is broken, especially if you can source a massive amount of bases. So, you go get your corrupted bases from your Uniques Drop corrupted maps, and then you go and run a few ROG logbooks, you get some of his items, and then you have a big session to merge them all together. Now, a big session is coming. I plan on getting a lot more corrupted bases, and then I'm going to run a bunch of ROG logbooks and get a bunch of ROG bases to craft on. And then I'm going to have a massive merging session, which I will probably do on my stream over at twitch.tv/AER0___, link in the description. And I'll probably make a video about it. So I'm really looking forward to that. If you have questions on this strategy of sourcing bases for recombinations, let me know down in the comments or stop by my Twitch. Thank you so much for watching. That's going to be it from me. And as always, take care.